Hello fun people, I'm Isaac Carlson, and today I want to break down the trauma that Scar inflicted upon Simba, how Scar haunted Simba into adulthood, and how that emotional burden almost destroyed the Lion King. You see, Simba endured many dark moments in his childhood that have continued to transform him into the leader he is today. As a cub, he was confident, bold, and fearless, but after seeing the death of his father Mufasa and being led to believe that he caused that horrific event by his power-hungry Uncle Scar, his entire life crumbled around him. With the belief that being in the gorge during the stampede was what caused Mufasa's death, Simba was forever changed.
But the king is dead. And if it weren't for you, he'd still be alive.
All of the promises his father made him about always being with him and that he would one day become king felt completely impossible because he internalized that he had murdered Mufasa, which made him flee from the Pride Lands. And far outside of his home, Simba came to despise himself. He was disappointed in his actions and his fate, so he took on the belief that the past didn't matter, and that removed all of his worries, but that only led to him avoiding his true pain and not dealing with his heartache. The burden of guilt he felt on his shoulders only continued to weigh him down when he lived in the jungle with Timon and Pumbaa. During the day, Simba could feast, play, and explore his new beautiful home, but at night, he was tormented by his past and his self-loathing.
I had a bad dream.
In The Lion King 1.5, we find out that as a young lion, Simba often had nightmares, but in The Lion King 2, we see how his dreams continue to plague his mind and trouble his thoughts. He continues to imagine his father's death, and once he learns the truth about Scar, he imagines what it was like to see his uncle throwing Mufasa to his death. The pain that Simba had surrounding his past could be ignored at times, but in the quiet moments of the night, he remembered everything and reaffirmed to himself that he could never go back.
You said you'd always be there for me! But you're not. And it's because of me. It's my fault.
Really, the reality that he had to face his past only became clear to him when his childhood friend Nala came back into his life. He was being forced to confront the truth that his home was struggling due to his absence, and through Rafiki's guidance and his confrontation with his father, he began to see that by turning his back on the Pride Lands, he was not only forgetting his father, but also who he was meant to become. The lies that Scar had put into his head, and the pain he felt from seeing his father die kept him from returning home. Regardless of who he was in that jungle, he would always be Mufasa's son, so of course he returned to Pride Rock to confront Scar. But when that moment finally arrived, Scar prodded at Simba's childhood trauma and again pushed him to believe that the event in the gorge was his fault. Only now, Simba was trying to take responsibility for Scar's lies, which meant that in front of his own family, Simba accepted who was responsible for Mufasa's death.
I am.
Ashamed and horrified by Scar's accusations, Simba had to see the disappointment from his mother, and again he was forced to face Scar's judgment. And with the hyenas supporting him, Simba was pushed to the edge of Pride Rock by Scar, and was forced to hang on the edge, which he learned from his uncle was the same position his father had been in before he died. But then, Mufasa's death gets completely recontextualized, because Scar finally tells Simba the truth that he had killed his father. And with that understanding, Simba's rage begins to be unleashed. Simba had spent years tearing himself apart inside because of the lies Scar had told him. He'd allowed his uncle to reign in his absence and ruin the Pride Lands, and he had turned his back on his father's teachings because he didn't feel worthy, but everything had been in service of a lie.
Murderer!
With the truth about Scar finally clear to Simba, he hunted his uncle down, convinced that he must be defeated, and with the desire to take revenge on the lion who took away his father and destroyed his life.
You don't deserve to live.
Of course, Simba wasn't going to take Scar's life, but he wanted him to suffer in the way he had as a cub, now that his hatred for himself was being refocused onto the true killer of his father. Simba wanted Scar to have to struggle outside of the Pride Lands on his own, though that would never happen because the hyenas took his life before banishment would have come his way. Even though Scar had been removed from the Pride Lands though, the destruction he had caused to Simba's psyche would absolutely live on. Especially the rage Simba had within him that had been solely placed onto himself was now being refocused onto Scar's loyal followers. In The Lion Guard, we discover that after Scar's defeat, Zira attacked and attempted to kill Simba, which was the inciting incident that led to Simba banishing the remainder of Scar's followers from the Pride Lands.
You exiled us to the Outlands.
After that attempt on his life, Simba refused to allow anyone in the Pride Lands to side with the lion who murdered his father, even banishing the children of the outsiders as he determined that they were not one of them. The truth was that he was just unable to trust them, empathize with their position, and tolerate their opposition to his rule, which led to him developing a deep hatred for the outsiders. He went from despising himself to despising Scar to despising the lions that continued to stay loyal to his uncle, which to me seems somewhat reasonable. Those lionesses had committed treason and weren't acting for some noble cause. They were trying to avenge a cruel, illegitimate king by murdering the rightful heir to the throne. In the full context of Simba's life, I think he had every right to banish them. But let me know what your thoughts are about the whole banishment of the outsiders in the comments. With the memories of being hunted by hyenas, the tragic death of his father, and the reality that lions who aligned with Scar were still out in the world, Simba grew to fear for his own family's safety and began to overly protect his daughter Kiara while she was growing up. He had seen how danger, violence, and evil could always rise and always existed, and that was reaffirmed when Scar's ghost literally returned in The Lion Guard. Only a few years after Scar's death and Zira's assassination attempt, an army of animals brought back Scar to advise them on how to defeat Simba. And throughout his time as a ghost of fire and lava, Scar attempted to assassinate Simba using a scorpion sting. He started a war against the Pride Lands. He injected Simba's son Kion with mind-altering venom, and he even set fire to Pride Rock before his presence was cast away by Kion. If you'd like to learn more about these events, I'll leave my videos on the subject down below. But importantly for this discussion, Simba just realized Scar kept coming back to tear him and his family down. And even though they always rose above it, Simba clearly struggled to see how he could continue to keep his home safe when Scar was always coming for him. That's why when Kovu saved Kiara during her first hunt, the reality that Scar's heir would be the first outsider to turn against his family tore Simba apart. He had seen what Scar, his followers, and his ideology could do to the Pride Lands and how capable they were at threatening his very existence. So to allow the lion who resembled Scar more than any other into his home devastated Simba, especially since his intuition was absolutely correct.
For now, I reserve judgment. We'll see who you really are.
Sure, his father's laws made him indebted to Kovu for rescuing his daughter, but it was initially all a charade that was meant to give Scar's followers the opportunity to murder him, and Simba knew this to be true. That's why that night, after his wife and daughter insisted Kovu be welcomed into the Pride Lands, Simba dreamed of Scar evolving to become Kovu just before he was sent to his own death. And sure enough, the following morning, Kovu had prepared to end Simba's life, and he was later attacked by the outsiders. Simba's psyche was tainted by lies, betrayals, and a constant struggle to preserve his place in the circle of life. And the wars he had to fight in his mind and in the Pride Lands took a toll on him, as they definitely should have. Simba stared death in the face due to Scar so many times. The ramification of Scar's actions against Simba truly haunted him every day of his life. His worldview became cynical, filled with rage, focused on preservation, and a desperate desire for security. But luckily, his daughter was able to see the good around them. She saw a more optimistic future, and she advocated for the animals who Simba hurt as he tried to retain some kind of justice and peace. Kiara wasn't able to heal all of Simba's trauma, but her innocence, naivety, and hopefulness kept Simba from misusing his role. She ensured that her father continued to strive to forgive the animals who wronged him, to see the humanity of everyone he met, and to be the king his father wanted him to become. Fun people, if you're new here, consider subscribing, and also let me know what fun topics you'd like to see me discuss in the future, either in the comments or over on my Discord server, which you can gain access to by joining our community over on Patreon. Finally, as always, thanks for watching, and have a magical day.